The effects of hypermasculinity. There was a saying a while back that a person stated to me, and in that they mentioned their belief system that somehow if an individual is attracting loads and loads of women, they are a man. This is the narrative that's been pushed to me a couple of times. It's the reason why you have many males that are accused of homosexuality for the choices someone makes. Um, and it's something I've criticized, I've condemned for it not being rooted in basic logic. But my idea of a man was always someone that took care of their responsibilities, um, which included their children, their bills, whatever career they wanted. Which, if you actually think about it, you have a lot of women who are more male than men or actual men. But nonetheless, I thought of it in that context because I had a long time ago subscribed to the narrative about let's indulge our masculinity in what others perceive of us, not what we actually do. And it was really sad because I saw so many people who found themselves, even as people who took care of their business, males or whatever, not thinking that they were adequate enough to have that label or that definition, even if they met what my criteria was. But the main purpose of that criteria was so that you could look at your accomplishments or things that you've been able to sustain and feel satisfied with knowing that you handled your business. And ultimately, we so often talk about these people that go out and get upset and attack someone of the opposite sex in some crime of rage at the other person for their gender, and that is something to be condemned. But we don't look into, well, when we investigate rather that person's background, we don't try to learn anything from it other than mockery. There was that thing about the guy plowing the people in Canada, or Toronto, or wherever that was. And instead of people saying, maybe we shouldn't preach this message that a person needs to have fulfillment in their interaction with others, as opposed to continuing that, which I think would get a lot of people to stop feeling so horrible about themselves from the decision of others. We just keep trying to, play this game of one-upsmanship. You could have a man who is living in a mansion that he paid for himself and has some successful business, but if he isn't, with some woman by their choice and not his, he somehow is of a lesser quality to you, somehow is of a lesser being. And look, for a long time come to the conclusion that I was horrible for not being able to attract people, whether it was having as many friends as I wanted or, romance. But I thought long and hard about the idea of just me being this person who was unable to sustain these interactions. But then it dawned on me, how would I have been able to keep the same best friend from, first to 10th grade, or and then another one from second grade to now? I couldn't buy that theory anymore. When I thought about how others had perceived me when it wasn't a romantic subtext, it fell through. And ultimately, we have to stop thinking of ourselves in the context of how someone else perceives us to feel content, which is what I've tried to advocate on here. Now, attempting to have interactions by itself is not a bad thing, be it romantic or platonic. But when you find yourself slipping into despair and thinking that you are some horrid creation for the fact that someone else doesn't recognize you for any redeeming quality whatsoever, or at least enough to want to be friends or go on a date, you have to accept the fact that's that person's choice. But that doesn't mean you suck. And look, a lot of people make dumb decisions. A lot of people will say this person looks all right. This person must be really funny. But, you ask them point blank, would you like my number so we can go watch a movie? Whether it's, some guy that you are friends with or some woman you say, hey, you want to go out to dinner? They don't give you the time of day. And that's a viewpoint that really proves humans being flawed in their belief system. But it is up to you to not allow their faults and their flaws to sink you into a place of discontent with yourself. And I say that as someone that allowed that to happen a couple of times, and only through the few that I still appreciate to this day that actually saw something worth interacting with, I was able to pull out of it. And look, I don't claim that you're gonna not slip back into that thought as I've done so a couple of times. What always gets me back is in thinking about those that have sacrificed much of their own time and attention to me. And I think anytime someone does that, it can really cut through this toxic narrative that's caused nothing but confusion, frustration, and destruction, all lumped together. A person that tries to belittle someone else over their status uh, is not a philosopher or someone that should be taken seriously. They are, in effect, dooming that individual to a state of mind that has only caused the destruction that we've seen over the past several years, actually longer. And unfortunately, it seems as if the more you try to convey this idea and really fight against it, there is this refusal to just accept the fact that someone else is different. And these people who do this know that if someone came up to them and treated them in the same manner, they wouldn't like it. And yet somehow they can't bestow the same fate onto the other person. We have all these religious people who, for example, call themselves Christian, but in practice do not follow the golden rule. Um, and it's because of that reason that you have such refusal to hear the person out and just instead jump to this rash choice or belief system that just serves your own bias. Oh, this person's into this, so that no wonder they don't have that many friends. This person's into that, so that no wonder they don't have a girlfriend. As if everyone who's ever had those two things or one of those two was one way. As if there isn't some small part of the population, even though it's been proven to be the case, that actually can see the goodness in a person when others can't, or if they do, don't care to give it any serious amount of attention. This is the falsehood that they preach and will continue to spew out, and I've tried to really evacuate from it. Life is too short to think of yourself in such a horrible way, and I've tried to erase those thoughts. So, thank you.